Hello crafty friends, it's Jess from jesscrafts.com, and today I have a tag as part of the new Nook Designs June release blog hop. This is the second day of the hop, and we're featuring the brand new set Fetching Friendship. Because it's a blog hop, you can follow the link in the video description to my blog where you can find the rest of the blog hop and enter for your chance to win this stamp set by commenting on each channel. For today's tag, I wanted to show you how you can achieve some no-line watercoloring with Inktense pencils. I have a piece of Tim Holtz Distress watercolor cardstock, and I'm going to stamp one of the dogs from the stamp set. I'm stamping it in Distress ink, the antique linen color, because it's a very light color of ink, and I don't want the viewer to be able to see the actual stamped lines. Instead, I want the Inktense pencils to create the lines. And so it's very difficult to see on camera. I don't even know if you could see it at all because the lines are so faint on the stamping. But what I'm going to do is take the Inktense pencils and trace all of the stamped lines in the color that I want them to ultimately be. So I'm going to use some browns for the dog, and I have a 24 pack of Inktense pencils, and they're watercolor pencils, so that's why I'm using the watercolor paper. And as you add water to the pencil lines, it spreads the ink out. Inktense pencils are a little different than your average watercolor because they are permanent when they're dry, and they don't lighten as much as most watercolors, and they also don't spread as much as most watercolors, but they have that really clear benefit of you being able to draw the lines, which is perfect for this no line coloring, because when you draw the lines back in, you can blend the lines out by blending the watercolor pencil out. I also found that sometimes that little line of color wasn't enough, and so something that you can do is get water and apply your wet brush directly to the pencil and pick up some additional color. So I have a water brush here, but the water is not actually in the barrel of the brush. Any small fine detail brush would do for this technique. You just want to be able to get into the fine lines of the stamp. And what I found is after I was able to layer in the color, I wanted to go back and add in just a few of the details, because as much as I do want it to look like this no line technique, if you don't add certain details in, it looks too much like a blob. So I wanted to add in, for example, the little dividers in between the feet, I guess like to show the toes of the animal. So I just took the Inktense pencil and drew those slight lines back in without blending them out. And that was just enough detail to still make it clear. And the colors that I used on the dog are mustard, baked earth, and willow, and then the chili red for his collar. There are also a few details that you want to add back in with a pen, and I'm using a Pitt Artist pen because it's waterproof. And so I drew back in the eyes and the nose and his little tag on the collar, just so that it was very clear, the details of the animal. And so, like I said, I just traced each of the stamped lines with the Inktense pencil, blended it out, added more color if I needed to by applying the wet brush to the pencil directly. And then I fussy cut out the image. Once I had the no-line watercoloring done on the dog, I wanted to create a similar no-line look on the background. And I had the idea of using Distress ink to stamp and then blend out, because you can use Distress inks as watercolor by simply pushing a little bit of the Distress ink onto a glass block or a nonstick craft sheet. You can pick up the color, blend it with water because Distress ink reacts to water, and apply it as watercolor. So I thought that perhaps if I stamped in Distress ink, it would have the same effect as using the Inktense pencils along the lines. The Inktense pencils, when you apply water, it reacts and you can pull it out. And so the Distress ink does the same thing, and so I should be able to pull the color from the stamped lines into the image and create a semi-solid image. That's the other reason that I used the Distress ink to stamp the dog originally, because I knew that the Distress ink would react with water, and so it would blend out a little bit, and even if it was slightly darker than I wanted to, I could blend the color out so you wouldn't see the lines in the end product. So I decided to stamp a background of the outline paw print, and then I would pull the color towards the center of the paw print to give some color to it. And I created some diagonal lines. I did not use any pencil lines to guide me this time. I was kind of okay with it being more of a handcrafted, messy look. So my lines may not be perfectly straight, but it does create a grid sort of pattern overall on the background tag here. And that's again the Tim Holtz watercolor cardstock, this time cut with my favorite things, stitched oval. So I'm taking my water onto my water brush and making sure that I'm touching the edges of the paw print to start spreading the color around. I'm using Barn Door Distress ink in this instance, and I was finding that it definitely creates a messy look and not a completely no-line look. It's very obvious where the outer edges of the stamps are. So it does, though, create kind of an interesting, fun watercolor look. So I like it in the end, even though I wouldn't call it a no-line look. And it just gives you some lighter color in the center. You're not going to get the strong red color. It's going to look more pink because you can't get too much color off of those stamped lines. Once I had that completed, I wanted to add a sentiment, and I'm going to keep this as a simple tag instead of completing the whole card because I just want to bring the attention to those two watercolor techniques that I tried. And I tried to stamp the sentiment directly onto that paw print pattern paper that I created, but you really couldn't see the sentiment. So I just took another little scrap of watercolor cardstock, colored it with the Barn Door Distress ink, and then stamped and embossed the sentiment on top of it. I used VersaFine ink and clear embossing powder to get that. Then I punched a hole in the top, and I'm ready to add some string so that when I want to use this, it's ready for a package. And so I just took the two ends of the string, fed it through the hole, and then looped those two ends back through the ribbon itself and pulled taut. And that way I could pull the ribbon off later and tie it on to a package. So here you see the whole Fetching Friendship stamp set and the two other dogs that come in. It's great for birthdays because I didn't add any of those elements, but it has these super cute little birthday hats as well. That's it for my project today. Like I said before, this is part of the New Nook Designs June release blog hop, so please come over to my blog, leave a comment so you can win this stamp set, check out the other designers and what they've done. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in more crafty videos, you can subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. Bye.